everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our bizarre and unusual world. Today we are going to be talking about a specific person for our topic. Today I'm going to talk all about Marie Laveau. As usual, we will be covering the who, what, when, where, why, and how of Marie Laveau. Let's go ahead and start with the when. When was Marie Laveau around? When was she born, and when did she die? So she was born roughly September 1801, and she died around June 1881. As for the where did she live? Marie Laveau was born and lived her life in New Orleans, Louisiana in the United States. In fact, her legacy is very much still connected to New Orleans. So who exactly is Marie Laveau? If you're not familiar with the name, I will give you a little bit of history of her life. So there's not a lot of information about her younger years. It is suggested that she was born to a rich white plantation owner and his black freed mistress. Her father, Charles Laveau, may have also been the mayor of New Orleans in around 1912. Her mother, Marguerite, was a voodoo practitioner, and that would actually become a huge part of Marie Laveau's life. Marie Laveau was actually the first of her generation to be born free and not into slavery. Marie Laveau was described as a beautiful woman, tall, with dark hair, and was thought to be very attractive to a great mix of people. She was also noted as a warm person, and that often people felt very comfortable around Marie. Whatever it was about her, many people of different backgrounds just felt relaxed in her presence. Over her life, she did marry a man named Paris. He was a carpenter from Haiti, and they would have 2 children together. However, in 1824, Paris would completely disappear. It is very debated if he just ran off, if he was murdered, was he killed, what exactly happened to him, but it's safe to say that he just poofed away. And a while after that, Marie Laveau did start referring to herself as a widow. It is also assumed that their 2 children did die young from some sort of illness. She then started to work at a beauty parlor, and this connection would be very important in her life. She was working and surrounded by a lot of rich white women. And when you go to the salon, what do? All of these women would discuss secrets or mysteries about their families, things that the rest of the town maybe didn't know. All of these women would tell their secrets to Marie, and she would kind of have an in to all of the mysteries of the rich families in New Orleans. Marie would start another relationship with a man named Jean-Louis Christophe. This guy literally has like 6 different names, so we'll just go with the first 3. He was from a more powerful white family from French descent, and together they would have 15 kids. 15 kids, holy shit. Now, there are some reports that say, yes, they were all their children and they pretty much had them one right after the other. And other people suggest maybe they were counting their children and their grandchildren, and that's why the number is so large. 15 children, oh my god. Because of her growing family, she kind of stepped away from the beauty parlor and focused more on her children. Now, unfortunately, a lot of her children would die of illness, and a lot of them didn't make it to adulthood. But nevertheless, she was focused more on her family. And during this time, this is really when she started to dive in to her voodoo roots and make that her legacy, her career, everything about what makes Marie Laveau so famous still today. Now, if you're not familiar, during these times, voodoo was very much a banned thing. The people did not understand it. A lot of white people were scared of this. They didn't understand its African roots or the bits that were from Haiti. They didn't understand the culture around it. So, being as they were scared and terrified of something, it was banned and people were not supposed to practice voodoo during this time. A lot of people really assumed that it must be something evil and something that was related to the devil. But still, Marie continued to learn more about voodoo, and it's suggested she was trained by a man named Dr. John. He was like some sort of voodoo doctor or root worker in New Orleans, and he worked to basically grow her skills and teach her the ways, if you will. But with most things voodoo, or magic, or supernatural, there is the question on what was true. Was this a myth? Was it mystical? Whatever the case is, over time, Marie Laveau quickly became known as the Voodoo Queen. Marie Laveau is said to have died peacefully in her bed, although some reports say that some people saw her out on the streets of New Orleans after her supposed death. So did she fake her death? Was it her spirit walking the familiar streets? Or some people even suggest that one of her daughters took her place as the Voodoo Queen. One of them is known as Marie Laveau II and did try to continue that voodoo legacy within her own life. However, Marie Laveau II did practice voodoo in her own way. She had ties to Native American work, African spiritualism, and other forms of voodoo resting in Louisiana. Everyone knew basically who this girl came from, but she was never as popular as her mother. She didn't have the warmth or whatever comfort Marie gave to the people of New Orleans. Her daughter didn't have that, and actually a lot of people were kind of scared of her. It is said that Marie Laveau II helped run a very popular brothel within New Orleans where both white and black people came to have a glorious time, and the police never raided this particular brothel because they knew who ran it, and they were so terrified that Marie Laveau II would place a curse on them that they just turned a blind eye to it and never raided that brothel. So Marie Laveau II definitely had a reputation, but she was still never quite as famous or popular as her mother. So what are some of the things that she was famous for? She did a lot of different rituals and voodoo practices for a lot of different people, depending on the situation or what exactly they were trying to achieve. This could be things like spirit reading, fortune telling, curing illness, granting charms, and even performing curses on people. She was also known to make amulet bags. These would bring good fortune to the wearer or even protection in some cases. Basically, depending on what the bag was created for, it would depend on each person, of course. Rituals with very hot peppers were used because if she was in some sort of pain or discomfort during a specific ritual, it was claimed that the spirits would notice her more and listen to her requests and help her complete whatever sort of voodoo creation she was doing. Other connections to the spirit was done through dance, music, singing, and sometimes the use of snakes. During her life, she also helped with a lot of community service type things. She did help nurse some yellow fever patients. She would help bail out free women of color and help them along in their life. She was also known to visit different prisoners that were basically going to be executed, and she would pray with them and within their final moments so that they weren't alone. Marie opened her services to include all customers, no matter their race or their social class. I mean, it's safe to say, she did have a special place in her heart for the poor or those that were still slaves at the time, and often would not charge those particular people that were struggling. There is actually a case that is much darker than some of the more positive things Marie Laveau is known for, and would kind of show basically voodoo used in a darker, more negative manner. The case basically suggests that a wealthy man from a very prominent and rich family was accused of a horrendous attack and just being extremely brutal with a girl from town. Obviously, her family pressed charges. There was this huge case. Everyone in town knew he was guilty. There was enough evidence, and it was pretty much the case was going to be just shut because everyone knew that this man had committed this crime, this brutal attack on this woman. So his wealthy father went to Marie Laveau and asked that she save his son, his guilty son, because it would ruin the family's reputation reputation, and that he didn't want his son to be put away, basically. And so in return, he would give Marie Laveau a house. Now, this story claims that she went ahead and used her different voodoo abilities, placed some things like within the courtroom, visited the courtroom on the day, and the judge threw the case out. It was pretty crazy, according to the various stories, if you believe it. A lot of people were further terrified of Marie Laveau after that because everyone in town knew that this man was guilty. And so the fact that she helped set him free did not sit well with a lot of people. It's claimed that she did get a house out of it, but it's definitely more of a negative story related to Marie Laveau. That's like not using her skills to help the community when you set a person like that free. So why did people feel more comfortable with her? It is really safe to say that more people around town felt comfortable with her and weren't really scared of her or any of the things that she could do. Of course, they didn't understand it all, but they felt that they could trust her in some way, which is rare, especially for the time. As I said, Marie Laveau was known to be very warm and welcoming. She was almost that type of person that when you start to have a conversation with her, you just feel like you can open up and tell her all your secrets because you're completely comfortable. She did also take the voodoo practices and kind of mix and make them her own with some Catholic beliefs. Growing up on her father's plantation, she did attend Mass every day, and she grew up Catholic. So during some points of her rituals and her practices, she took voodoo and Catholic beliefs and kind of merged them together, which in a way made more people within the town feel more comfortable with her if it's a ritual that they're already familiar with from their own religion and it's not completely foreign to them with just the hardcore voodoo beliefs. Mixing these two cultures could be things like adding the idea of holy water to her rituals, different prayers, the use of incense, and so on. These activities and the mixing of traditions made her rituals much more acceptable to the upper class people within the town. And of course, if like the upper class rich people are more comfortable with her, then more of the town as a whole is going to be more trustworthy of Marie Laveau. While all races visited her and attended her ceremonies, like within voodoo, it was never fully accepted as a legitimate religion. I mean, that's probably why today it's seen as something part of the occult. There's even like a newspaper that wrote about her and said, "The notorious hag who reigns over the ignorant and superstitious as the queen of the voodoos." So clearly not everyone was on board with her particular lifestyle. But you do really have to note that even though it's recorded that she was very warm and comforting and cared about the community, there was a dark side to her. Like specifically that court case, if you believe that story, if the price was right, she was completely open to using her abilities and her voodoo rituals for not good things. So how is Marie Laveau remembered today? Mostly in New Orleans, of course. She is still known as the Queen of Voodoo. Even in other states, I mean, I'm up in the Pacific Northwest and I know about Marie Laveau being the Queen of Voodoo. So it's not just in Louisiana, but she is definitely more popular down south. However, some historians looking back are quite skeptical and have their questions about her. A lot of them do not believe that she had any sort of magic or that the voodoo rituals really did anything. They believe that going back to the beauty parlor, when those rich white women would tell all their family secrets, Marie Laveau would pay attention, and she would use those mysteries and secrets about those specific families to her advantage to make it seem like she was psychic or finding these things out. It was tricks. She even was said to have like spies within certain houses that she would work with slaves within some of the rich houses and get information from them about the families to once more make her rituals seem much more believable and to keep the illusion up that she was in fact the voodoo queen. But she couldn't do anything. Some historians, like specifically with that court case, suggest that maybe she didn't do a voodoo ritual, but she had some sort of dirt on the judge, and that's why he threw the case out instead of like the magic of voodoo. She just knew some of his secrets, and he tossed the case out so that she wouldn't spill it. But you're always going to have both sides of people with these sort of topics, the skeptics and the believers. A lot of people still do remember her as the Voodoo Queen. In New Orleans, people will like whisper her name as good luck when they're gambling. People claim to see her spirit around the town. There's just like this huge connection to her still that makes her very, very popular. Her grave is actually a place to visit. A lot of people would go there and mark an X on her tomb. And this tradition started a while ago where people were basically asking Marie Laveau to grant them a wish from the grave. If they did this X and like a little dance and they would ask her for something, then she would perform her voodoo magic from the grave. Now, if she was successful and your wish came true, you were supposed to go back to her grave and circle the X so that more people would know that it was successful. And of course, you were supposed to bring her some sort of offering to the grave as some sort of thank you. As of 2015, to visit the site, you actually have to be on a tour. There was just way too much vandalism happening in this part of the cemetery, so it's now actually private. She is quite popular in different forms of entertainment as well. There's been a lot of different books, TV shows, movies. Probably the most popular was American Horror Story, season 3 Coven, where Angela Bassett played Marie Laveau, and she was a very prominent character within that show, and I think that's what a lot of people think of when they hear her name. More, younger crowd hear her name, if you will. She's also been mentioned in things like Lost Girl, Legends of Tomorrow, and there's even kind of a character that's inspired by her in the Marvel Comics. So what do you guys think about Marie Laveau? Do you believe that she was truly the Voodoo Queen and had some sort of connection to the spirits? Do you think that she was scamming people with knowledge from her sources around town and the different things that she would hear within gossip, basically? Have you heard of Marie Laveau? Just in general, what do you guys think about this topic? To most people, she died, known as a very saintly person, someone that helped and aided the sick and the needy, and not as an evil being to the most, She was in some ways the mother figure to a lot of people within her community. But to other people, she was a dark and evil person that practices voodoo with the spirits. So I would love to hear what you guys think. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye. If she ever asks you to make her your wife, man, you better stay with her for the